This is the plaintiff, Ralph Perfetto. He says he's a private eye and was hired by the defendant to do surveillance on his son-in-law, who was cheating on his daughter and even ended up stealing the man's business out from under his nose. The defendant still owes him money for his services, can't get an explanation out of him as to why he's refusing to pay him, and is suing for the $150 he's still owed. This is the defendant, Darmanin Latchman. He says the plaintiff's a swindler who didn't do anything for him that helped build a case against his son-in-law, but he paid the plaintiff the $1,500 he billed him anyway. Now the guy's suing him for another $150? For what? Doing nothing? He's accused of dissing a private eye. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $1,000 for the return of monies paid.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff is a private eye who was hired by the defendant to put a tail on his daughter's husband, who he believed was cheating on her. And he hasn't gotten paid. But the defendant says the plaintiff was useless. It's the case of you cheated me on your cheating son-in-law.
Thank you, Douglas. Okay, Ralph Perfetto.
Yes.
You are suing Darmanin Latchman and Oriental Guyana Restaurant?
Yes.
Okay. For $150, a balance you say owed on private investigation fees that he refuses to pay you, correct?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's start a little bit differently in this case because I want to hear why he hired you, and then we'll go into what you say is remaining unpaid. So tell me what happened that you found yourself in the position of having to hire a private investigator.
Okay, I went into business with my son-in-law 2004. We were 50-50 partnership in it. I put $200,000, they put $190,000. And 2010, we had an audit and I went in there and he was not cooperating with me. I ended up involved in another business, the restaurant, what I have presently. So I was not going to the business place as often as I used to. So when I went there, we had a pending audit. So I went there and I said, hey, we have an audit. We have to put some paperwork together. Well, he eventually was evading me. So I told my daughter, he's operating as if he owned this entire business. He jumped to hit me. And I moved aside and I decided not to go back to avoid confrontation because my daughter and him, they were still together and they have 2 kids. So I went to Mr. Ganjemi.
Wait, he took a swing at you?
Yeah, he took a swing at me because he was he's a robust, very temperamental guy. So I tried.
That's not an excuse. I'm a robust, temperamental gal, but I can't take a swing at you.
No, well, that was his type of person.
Okay.
I came from a different background. So I just tried to move away and I didn't go back. So I went and consulted an attorney, say, hey,
Are your daughter and he still together?
They have a divorce.
Okay. So then you went to see a lawyer.
Yes, to look at my interest.
And then the lawyer referred you to him as a private investigator.
A private investigator.
All right. Now, what did you hire him specifically to do?
Well, seeing that I don't want to go back to the shop to avoid any confrontation, for him to go and pick up some information.
Okay. And what information did you want him to pick up?
Well, the license was in my name and how this guy was running it. We were doing shipping some cars from New York to Guyana. Part of the proceeds would go to the shop, which eventually go to the 2 partners.
Right.
So Mr. Pareto, he was there, but I didn't know that he and my attorney, they were related.
Are you related to the attorney?
No.
Okay. Where did you get the idea that we're related?
Okay, I went into the archives, I picked up the information.
How? Well, that doesn't answer my question. That's just more mysterious.
Because the article said that they are related.
Do you have it?
Yes.
Can I see what you're talking about? Can you circle the part where you got the impression? Because it's important because he just said no, and if he's lying or if there's something in there, I just want to know.
The relationship is simply this, Your Honor. My maternal grandparents came from Italy over here, and they stayed with the attorney's wife's parents for a short time until they got their own apartment.
Oh, you're Cuban cousins.
Pardon?
You're Cuban cousins. You stayed in the same house and you came to the new country. That makes you Cuban cousins.
And the relationship between the attorney and me.
All right. So he hires him to do a job. And the job that he and you, through the attorney, hire him to do is the thing that you can't do because you don't want to go there, you don't want to get hit, and you don't want to hit him, and you don't want to get in any more confrontation. So you reach an agreement with him that he's going to charge you $50 an hour, correct?
Okay.
And you then embark on a series of trips.
Yes.
to the
to
site.
the shop.
Tell me about
and
that.
so on.
Okay.
As he said, his son-in-law is a rather rough guy, and I've been there 4 or 5 times. Each time there was a confrontation.
Oh, maybe he just doesn't like you, doesn't want to answer your question. How many times were you going to go over there? You went over there how many times?
About 4 or 5 times at
All right.
least.
And each time that you went, they threw you out, right?
No, well,
Or they wouldn't let you in?
but I went in anyway. And then, as Mr. Latchman said, he tried to intimidate me.
And was there a confrontation between you two?
A few times.
I mean,
he
did it
came,
get physical,
but
I guess is what I mean.
But I pushed him off.
Okay.
I boxed in the ring years ago, Your Honor.
Okay. All right.
So, would you hire a private eye if you thought your partner was cheating?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would want to know and either end it or get on with life.
Would you hire a private eye?
I think I would too, because I'd want to know in the end what happened.
What if it turns out that your partner wasn't cheating? Would your partner be pissed?
Partner will be pissed. I'll be pissed because I spent the money for nothing.
Going inside the courtroom.
So each time that you go, you're charging him several hours.
Yes.
And yet each time that you go, the guy's not letting you in. So why do you keep going?
I got information.
Okay.
He wanted to see if his son-in-law was operating still under his name with his license. I got that.
Okay.
He also was shipping cars to Guyana. I went down to the freight forwarders. I went through their warehouse.
Right, but I thought that from your report it says they wouldn't answer any of your questions.
I got the answers.
How did you get the answer?
When I got the fellow outside from the freight forwarding company, he said he's my customer, but I'm not going to give you anything. So that was just the information. The shop,
Okay.
freight forwarder. This is the photocopy of the license that his son-in-law was operating under his name.
Okay.
And he would be liable if there was any violation, any fines, any
Right.
penalties.
What ended up okay, so you were charging $50 an hour.
Yes.
You ended up paying him how much?
I gave him to date $1,800.
$1,800. All right, so here's what I want from you. Here's the next thing that I want from you, okay? What I want from you is to tell me when the man has paid you 30-something hours and what you've been able to do is go repeatedly to the place and get thrown out.
Incorrect, Your Honor.
How many times did you go there?
I went there 4 or 5 times.
All right, how many hours did you bill each time you went there?
For the hours that was
3 hours, 4 hours. One of the times you went, he told you to get lost in the first hour, and you sat there for 2 hours waiting for your cousin or the lawyer to call you and tell you, okay, you can go now.
No. That wasn't it at all, Your Honor. I took videotapes, and then we went to the district attorney's office, and I submitted my
I'm not suggesting you didn't do anything. My worry and his worry is that you're milking it. Okay, you have a counterclaim against him for $1,000?
Yes.
For what?
I think I paid him too much because
Don't you think you should think about that before you paid him?
Well, this is where the relationship comes in with him and the attorney because he was being manipulated. I think Mr. Pareto is a good guy, but if the lawyer tells him go and do this, then he go ahead, and there is where the problem. That is why Mr.
It's not a problem. Look, the courts cannot allow people to file lawsuits to reclaim. Hey, wait a minute. I think I got overcharged over there. Hold everything. Let me see that. We don't allow that because otherwise we'd open up the floodgates to litigation nonstop from if nothing's changed, if you didn't discover a fraud on his part, if you didn't discover that he was actually in Tahiti all that time, if you didn't discover some new fact, then you don't get to recoup money that you willingly paid. Stop. Okay. And as for you suing for the remaining $150 when you have been paid $1,800 up to date, that puts the onus on me. When I see 4 or 5 visits to the place where you're spending 3 hours each time and the guy's telling you the same answer, which is get lost, I just think that the 30-something you've been paid for or whatever, I think that's a reasonable fee for what you've done. I'm not going to order him to pay you more money. Verdict for the defendant on your claim against him. On your claim against him, all right, 0.
And so the private eye comes out here on the losing end of his case. What's your feeling here for 150?
Had I gotten to 150, I would have given it to medical research. At every December, I make out a check, a small percentage of my income for the year, and give it to medical research.
All right, you were going to do that anyway. You're going to do that in December. So why'd you sue him then?
Because it's the principle of the thing. If I'm persistent enough to go against a guy, his son-in-law, who's a confrontational guy, and I get the evidence that
Why'd you keep going back and doing the same thing over and over again? Isn't that milking it a little bit?
No. I got evidence each time. He wanted to know how much money he's losing. I got evidence on how much money he's losing.
All right, thank you very much. Come on in here. You satisfied how this comes out here? You Don't win anything on your countersuit either. You paid him.
I'm happy. It's a baby step towards getting the exposure to go after the attorney who swindles me. So I think there's a good opening that I can start, even though it's a baby step.
Over to Harvey. What do you got?
What the judge is saying is she's not going to go into this contract and try to figure out what would be fair. Judges, their job is not to make contracts fair, it's to enforce contracts. And you have a right to make one that's unfair. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.